What's going on, everyone? My name is Dan, and what I have here is a deck profile for standard Murakumo. Now, this profile is of a list that I used to win in ARG, not this past weekend, but the one prior to it. I had planned on making this video and having it out last Monday, but I had a lot of issues with my camera. It wouldn't record, wouldn't upload, so it took me a while to get this figured out. Finally it did, so now I can finally bring this to you, give you the list I used to win a 31-man ARG. So, without any more delay, let's get into the main of the deck. So first up we have, for grade 3s, our main win condition, which is Dueling Dragon Zanbaku, of course. He is our main way to win. We want to be sure to ride him as many times as we can every game. Make sure we ride him every game at the very least. Use his ability to basically lock down the opponent's Vanguard. It's a CB1, Soul Blast 1, search your deck for an Arrestor. Call it to the board, he gains 5k himself, and then if you have both Arrestors on board, your opponent cannot ride next turn. So there's a bit more to the combo with the grade 2s, but that by itself prevents your opponents from riding to get more force markers, protect markers, gift markers, excel markers, I mean. So just, it stops your opponent from getting more and more value throughout the game. So he's a great unit to be running. He's a great win condition. After that, we run 2 copies of Covert Demonic Dragon Mandala Lord. He's ideally our preferred first ride target, mainly if we're going first in the game. Sometimes if you go second, he's fine to ride too. He is, when he's placed in the Vanguard, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose 2 of your units, so himself can be included, and 1 of your rear guards, and then search your deck for a copy of both of the chosen units and call them to the board. So for a Counterblast and a Soul Blast, he gets you 2 more units on board so it's very, very, very free, very little required for it. Late game, he doesn't do a whole lot. He has no rear guard abilities, and you don't want to be riding him over top of Zanbaku unless you're going for the kill for that extra circle, but he's a great first turn, first grade 3 ride. Get that pressure going early game, get your opponent scared. And last for grade 3s, we have 3 copies of Twin Swordsman Musashi. I'm sure anyone who's played against this deck knows what he does. Vanguard or rearguard effect. If you are attacking with him and you have more rearguards than your opponent, he gains 5k, and your opponent must guard twice to guard him. So his effect is useful on the Vanguard and rearguard. Vanguard, you don't want to ride him. Rearguard, you want to have him on every Excel circle you can. So he can just by himself finish games because he's so hard to deal with. He's always a target to get rid of first, and he is just a huge pain for the opponent. So those are our grade 3s. This is, from what I've seen, this is kind of the widely used and accepted grade 3 lineup. Grade 2s is where I start to differ from most people. So starting off with our grade 2s, we have 4 copies of Left Arrestor, and then we have 3 copies of Right Arrestor. Now these are the cards that combo with Zanbaku. They make it so your opponent cannot stand or ride or stand on their next turn. Now Left Arrestor is semi more important because you need him on the board prior to activating Zanbaku's skill, then calling out the other one to get the full lock to go off. So I run more of him than the other one because you can search the other one, search Right Arrestor from your deck, but also because he is Left Arrestor lets you hit the Vanguard of your opponent if they're a force deck. When he attacks, if you have another Arrestor on board, he can gain 5k for a Soul Blast. So he just hits the numbers by himself, and he's great to have. So, and the reason I don't run four of each, which I see a lot of people do, is because I have a nice little tech in here for my own uses. So those are those 2. We move on. We have 3 copies of Swift Archer Fushimi, and 3 copies of Stealth Beast Bloody Mist. So like I said, most people will run 4 copies of both Arrestors, and then we'll also run a 4th copy of Fushimi, because they like the disruption he provides, letting you attack units in the back row, things like Nemains or Marins that can provide a lot of value for your opponent that you don't want to have to deal with. And he also has a continuous of 5k if you have 4 rearguards. So he, like Left Arrestor, hits those numbers, hits the force numbers. I personally like to run 3 of him and 3 Bloody Mist, and I run Bloody Mist for 2 reasons. One, early game, his ability is Vanguard and Rearguard Act Counterblast 1. If you have no other copies of him on the board, search your deck for one copy of him, call it to the board, and it gets minus 4k power till end of the turn. Now, if you have a grade 1 in your hand that you can use for a booster, early game you can ride him, call a copy, and put a grade 1 behind him, get two powerful or two good attacks, good pressure that your opponent has to guard or take extra damage or deal with early game that you didn't use or use a lot of resources for. It's one counterblast for an extra attack, which can sometimes be a little more than you would like to spend because your opponent will probably starve you of damage so you can't get the Zanbaku lock. But that pressure makes them have to retaliate against you or else they'll just fall behind. The other reason is that late game, I find that in the grindy games that go on like 7, 8, 9 turns, when you've ridden your grade 3 like 4 times, you start to run out of things to call to your deck for Amatsu Snipe skill, which you'll see in a minute, and you also just run out of ways to fill the board. You don't want to have to throw your whole hand down unless you're going for a Hail Mary win or you're trying to push that last damage you need that turn. So getting him late game lets you get a 9k attacker or a 19k attacker on the Excel Circle, and for Counterblast, get an extra attacker from the deck. So unlike Mandala Lord, who is only a Vanguard effect to call copies of cards, he can do it by himself on the rear guard, so it gets you another free attacker on the board to push that last damage in the late games. So those are the reasons why I run Bloody Mist. I don't see a ton of people running him. Some do, some don't. I think he's been very effective. I won an ARG partially to him because I just got that early game pressure. So those are my grade 2s for the deck. Moving on, we go to our grade 1s. We run 4 copies of Stealth Beast Bloody Mist. Or, not Bloody Mist, Million Rat. Million Rat is basically a grade 1 version of Bloody Mist. It's the exact same effect. The only difference is that you cannot use his ability on the Vanguard, which makes sense because if you have Counterblast available when you're still a grade 1 Vanguard, you're probably doing something wrong, or your deck's not helping you out very much. But he's great for similar reasons to Bloody Mist. Gets you those free units from the deck when you need them. Gets you that boost that you need. It's still minus 4k when the turn is called, but it's a 12k column on the turn is called. So if you're playing at the Excel clan, that column hits the enemy Vanguard at grade 3, or if you're going first, it hits the opponent at whatever they're at. So just a good card to have. Good card to have 4 of because you always want that target. I run 3 of Bloody Mist because I don't need him as much. You usually need a booster more than an attacker because boosters can also attack. So that's why I run those numbers as is. That's Million Rat. Next we run 4 Stealth Dragon Amatsu Snipe. Amatsu Snipe is a 7k grade 1 with a continuous ability of on the Vanguard and the rear guard. If you called a card from your deck to the board this turn, he has plus 5k power. Does not stack, but that makes him a 12k attacker, 12k booster by himself, which lets you hit a lot of good numbers for the matchups against both Excel and Force, because it lets you hit the Force markers, and the Excel numbers are just better for you to hit that way. So I run him, and because I run him, which is part of the reason why I run so many of the deck calling effects, Bloody Mist, Million Rat, Zanbaku, and Mandala Lord, they all call things from the deck. They all activate him. He's active almost every turn as long as I have a Counterblast to use. So having him on the board behind my Vanguard, behind a rear guard somewhere, just makes him a pain in the ass to deal with because he just puts so much power on board. And then the last grade 1 I run is 3 copies of Stealth Rogue of Silence Shiji Mamaru. Again, another 7k grade 1, so your grade 1 turns aren't great unless you have a Million Rat to ride, but his benefits are better than that 1k minus. When he boosts a unit, you may choose up to 2 units that share a name as the boosted unit and give both of them 3k. So you may choose the thing that's being boosted itself, making it basically a 10k booster, and something else on the board making, say, a 9k, a 12k. So he just gets you those numbers. If you're boosting the Vanguard, it's 22 against an Excel deck. Makes it harder to deal with behind your Vanguard. If you're going first, if you put him behind the Vanguard turn 1, he makes it hard to guard those numbers because that 10k makes him only gets you that step up, so they need to use a trigger for a 1 to pass. So he puts a lot of early game pressure on. And having a 10k booster for those numbers just helps throughout the entirety of the game. So I run him at 3 because the other 2 are a bit stronger, but I think his ability is just completely fine, and you don't really want to run the only other option in this deck because I don't really use a lot of Mandala Lord effects. I only have 2 of them. So those are the main cards of the deck. Just give you a real quick shot of my trigger lineup. I run 6 crit, 6 draw, 4 of which are the perfect guard effect, as would be obvious. And then for heal, I used to run 8 draw and 4 crit, but in that case, I did that because it gave me a lot of survivability. It would destroy the mirror match and would let me power through a lot of decks that try to grind my hand down. But when Angel Feather was added into the mix, I needed a little extra power to punch through it. So I added 2 more crits in, which showed to work very well. I don't think I'll be changing this anytime soon unless something big happens in the game's balance. So those are my triggers, and that is my deck list that I used to win in ARG. There were so a little bit about the ARG, give you an idea of how well the deck performed. There were 31 people at the ARG, and we had 5 rounds of Swiss, which then cut to top 8. So, give you a view there. So round 1, I played against Pale Moon, which I actually lost that game due to me not having a lot of experience playing against it. I didn't practice for it. I didn't plan to see it there. It kind of took me by surprise, and I wasn't sure really how to approach it. So I kind of lost last game due to a lucky trigger on his part. Kind of saved him for my last attacking turn. Round 2, I played Royals. I won first 2 games of that matchup. So first game, he put me to 5 damage on turn 2. I still came back and still won that, so there's a little information of you for that, if you take that as how you will. Round 3, I played a mirror match, and I knew the guy playing the mirror match, and he hadn't had the deck for as long as I had. I've been playing this deck since it came out. I've been playing the clan since the clan came out. So I just had the experience, I had the knowledge and the know-how to fight the matchup, so I took that round in 2 games as well. Round 4, played a friend of mine. He was playing Angel Feather. So something I didn't think to do until I played that game was I didn't ride Zambaku once, I don't think. I only rode Mandala Lord, and I rode Mandala Lord twice each game. Only went 2 games, and both times I just filled a whole board as much as I could, as fast as I could, and just ran him into the face as hard as I could. I just kept punching him in the Vanguard until he died, pretty much, both games. Now I think about it, I did ride Zambaku 1 time. It was the second game. I didn't even use his ability. I rode him for a 3rd Excel Circle, just so I could call my 3rd Musashi to an Excel Circle. I had all 3 of them on the Excel Circles, and he just kind of conceded at that point because he was dead anyway. Round 5 was a Gold Paladin matchup. Was the first time I ever played Gold Paladin matchup, and it was a really grindy game. Game 1 and Game 3 were both like 6 or 7 turns apiece, just attacking rear guards, trying to gain some kind of board advantage. Game 2, he had a good draw, I had a bad draw, and he kind of ran me through earlier on. So that wasn't a whole grind, but game 1, I won through a grind. Game 2, I won through a grind. And it just was a long match. But that was our Swiss 5. Ended the record of 4-1. We then go to top 8. Rank 1 was Neos, 2 was Angels, 3 and 4 were also Neos. I was 5th with Murakumo. Pale Moon, the Pale Moon player I versed in round 1, was 6th. He made all the way to top 8, which was good for him. 7, I think, was Royals. I can't remember exactly. And then 8 was the Gold Paladin player I had won up against in round 5. So round 1 of top 8, I played Neos. Was a good back and forth. We both got some good good triggers going in here and there. But I came out on top in that matchup. Round 2, I played the Pale Moon player again. This time I just destroyed him. I was ready. I had like an idea this time what to do, and I just kept him down. I was never scared of losing either of those games the entirety of that match. So I got my revenge, is all I'll say. And then last round was another Neonectar matchup. Took that one in 2 games as well. So that was my experience with ARG with this deck. 5-round Swiss, ended 4-1, ranked 5th, won the whole thing, got the championship mat and everything. So yeah, that's my deck list for that event. If you thought it was interesting, had any comments about what I have in here over or something else, let me know. Let me know what you think about it. But that will do it for this video. So thank you all for watching, and see you later.